What's happening, everybody? On today's show, Greg Sankey talking about what a future SEC schedule could look like. We'll take a look at one scenario posted with three permanent rivals and a 9-game SEC schedule. We'll discuss it today on Locked On SEC.
Are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. I'm Chris Gordy. Welcome into Locked On SEC. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and at LockedOnSEC.com. Well, let's jump into it. We got plenty to discuss as the news came out late last week that conference expansion is a go for 2024 with Texas and Oklahoma coming to the conference on Friday. Chris Del Conte, head of the Texas Athletic Department, he was on the Paul Feinbaum show, and he said, look, what makes college so great is rivalries, deep-rooted family rivalries you cherish. When you see the rivalries of your schools, those are so important. For us to not have been playing Texas A&M for these years, it's just saddened. I feel bad for the state of Texas and our fan base. He said he felt the same way about Arkansas and how Frank Broyles and Darrell Royal retired on the same day after a storied history between those two schools. Del Conte went on to say, for us to get back and rekindle some of those games on an annual basis, I just think it's great for college football, great for our communities. So rivalries, in my opinion, really matter in sports, and we're going to get back to doing that. Del Conte pointed out his recent history with Texas. He said, I don't forget you threw on our helmet when we played Arkansas a couple years ago, so I can't wait to get you back on that. Feinbaum did apologize. There was some fallout from this move happening a year earlier. Texas's upcoming series with Michigan has reportedly been altered as part of the deal to get the school out of the Big 12. Texas and Michigan, they will play in 2024 and 2027, but the order has been flipped, according to Pete Thamel. So the 2024 game next year is going to now be in Ann Arbor, the location of the 2024 game. That was a big deal for Fox. So as a Michigan home game, the Longhorns and Wolverines, that game will be broadcast on Fox. It was all part of this negotiations between Fox and ESPN to get Texas and Oklahoma into the SEC a year earlier. And just one other thought on that Texas A&M rivalry. A&M athletic director Ross Bjork, he's made his stance pretty clear on Texas and Oklahoma. Now that it's official, he's not backing down. Bjork said at his town hall Friday that nothing has changed regarding the first matchup between A&M and Texas. So whenever they are scheduled to meet, the game will occur at Kyle Field in College Station, according to reports. But looking forward to that one. Want that rivalry back, and we'll see, will it be a permanent crossover game? SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, talking with ESPN on Friday, said he's looking forward to seeing some rivalries renewed, but acknowledged that building the schedule for a 16-team conference needs to be done over the next 3 months. He said the objective is to have each of the 16 teams face each other at a much more frequent rate. I mean, right now we've had teams in the East playing teams in the West like, once every decade they go there. We need that to happen more often. Sankey went on to say converting to a single division format or no division is going to present challenges in and of itself, but we have focused most recently on a single division format. Basically, we would do away with the SEC East and the SEC West, and we would have just everybody playing each other with a few permanent rivals. And so what would that look like? Well, Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports, he put out a proposal on his social media. He called it a 3-6-6 format. So basically, here's what it would look like. And I'll run through these very quickly. Your Alabama 3 permanents, you play Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU. Obviously, you maintain the Iron Bowl, and you maintain the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry. Arkansas, they would get Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma. Get to rekindle some of those Southwest Conference games. Auburn, they would get Bama, Georgia, and Vandy. Again, rivalry with Bama, rivalry with Georgia. Florida, they would get Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina. In turn, Georgia, they would get Florida, keep that rivalry going, keep the rivalry going with Auburn, and they would get South Carolina. Kentucky would get Ole Miss, Missouri, Mississippi State. Not exactly any real good rivalries in that mix for Kentucky. So they kind of tend to be the team left out of this, not getting any good rivalries. LSU, again, this is Brandon Marcello's proposal, would get Bama, A&M, and Ole Miss. Maintain that LSU-Alabama rivalry, the LSU-A&M rivalry, and the LSU-Ole Miss rivalry. Mississippi State, their proposal, they would get Ole Miss. Of course, the Egg Bowl with Kentucky and Mizzou. Mizzou would get Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State. Oklahoma would get Texas, Texas A&M. And Brandon actually put Texas in here twice, so I think he messed up. Ole Miss, he has Mississippi State, LSU, Kentucky. South Carolina gets Vandy, Georgia, Florida. It's a tough go for South Carolina having to play Georgia and Florida every year. Tennessee would get Florida, Bama, and Vandy. Texas would get A&M, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Texas A&M would get Texas, LSU, and Oklahoma. And then Vandy would get Tennessee, South Carolina, and Auburn. So if you can keep track of all that, whatever your favorite school is, that's what Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports proposed. A lot of people are starting to lean now towards the 3 permanents. There was some talk of maybe just doing 2 permanent crossovers. Again, that would allow teams to play more often, but because of the numbers and who comes on the schedule, who comes off, home and away, and all that, some folks smarter than me saying that the 3-team permanent rivalries would work a little bit easier with the 16 teams. So look, I'm all for maintaining some of the permanent rivalries and of course bringing some of the old ones back with Oklahoma and Texas coming to the SEC. Getting that Texas A&M game would be absolutely huge. But look, I think you got to preserve Tennessee, Bama. I think you got to preserve Georgia, Florida, the Iron Bowl, LSU, Ole Miss. There's just certain ones, the Egg Bowl, there's certain ones that you just have to protect. We have to keep going if you're going to do the permanent crossovers. And then again, the proposal would be 2 best teams in the SEC would play for the SEC championship. So it would not be a winner of the East or the West. East and West would go away. Just the 2 best teams with the best records. Once the season ends in the conference, they'll go to Atlanta. So we'll see. There's going to be a lot of discussion in the coming weeks to months on what that permanent schedule is going to look like. But we just got to get more variety. We got to get more trips. Think of, when's the last time, Bama went to Gainesville a year ago. Time before that, it had been forever. LSU just went to Kentucky a year ago. Time before that, it had been forever. It's just a lot of these trips for some of these schools. It's taking almost a decade before they get there again. If we're going to be called a conference, we got to have more teams playing at SEC venues more often that aren't part of their normal rotation. So there you have it. That's the latest with that, and we'll keep an eye out and see what the latest rumblings are with a 2024 SEC schedule already in the works. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we will hit on some tidbits going around the conference. But first, this episode is presented to you by our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helping you hire the people that you want to hire. As a small business owner, success this year all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you got to go check out LinkedIn Jobs. They will help you hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills that you are looking for. LinkedIn Jobs helping you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They make it easy to screen and rate applicants based on the job qualifications, all on one platform. And it's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helping you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to go post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Rolling along here, Locked On SEC, and we got some tidbits we got to get into going on around the conference. So without further ado, let's jump into it.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start over to Alabama as their off-the-field staff going through some changes with analysts. On3 Sports reporting that Alabama analyst Max Bulla, who was recently promoted from grad assistant to defensive analyst, he is now reportedly heading to Notre Dame. On the other side, Alabama going to add former Boston College offensive coordinator John McNulty as an analyst. Max Bulla, he spent 3 seasons on Saban's staff as a grad assistant. As AL.com reported, Bulla is no longer listed among Bama's analysts on their team website after his recent promotion, and he'll be heading to Notre Dame. McNulty heads to Bama as an analyst for Tommy Rees, former colleague. McNulty and Rees worked together at Notre Dame in 2020 and 2021. McNulty was the tight ends coach. Rees was the offensive coordinator. Speaking of Tommy Rees, made a very positive impression during his interview, according to reports. Chris Lowe at ESPN reporting that showed a lot of confidence and self-assuredness. Lowe spoke with a veteran head coach who said the Alabama coordinator hires won't be a complete overhaul because of the way Saban has adapted a lot more than he's been given credit for. The quote said, he's changed as the game has changed, but with the direction you're seeing him go with these 2 coordinators, don't be surprised if it looks a little bit more like what Bama looked like 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago. At least I'd say that's the plan. Running the football more on offense, get more turnovers on defense, and just generally punching you in the mouth. Now, one SEC offensive coordinator also weighed in Chris Lowe's article and said, I would say above everything else, Tommy Rees' commitment to running the football and how he devised ways to get his best player the ball, whether it was running back Kyron Williams or tight end Michael Mayer, that had to be a big factor in Saban's decision to hire him. Another former coach said it was the right move for Tommy Rees and one that could pay dividends for him and Nick Saban. So a lot of positive feedback so far on the Tommy Rees hire. Some Bama fans a little mixed, but I think anybody, look, if you're a Bama fan and they're telling you they're going to run the football more, I think you take that. A lot of Bama fans did not run the football enough these last couple seasons. Bill O'Brien did an okay job. The offense obviously executed well, scored a lot of points. Bryce Young won the Heisman 2 years ago, but Bama fans are used to run the ball and stop the run. And it sounds like Bama's going to get back into doing that a little bit more. Another SEC news, SEC Faux news. Utah quarterback Cameron Rising. News came out he is recovering from a torn ACL, and the hope is he'll be back in time for their Week 1 game when they will host Florida to kick off the 2023 season. Rising was injured during Utah's Rose Bowl game, and Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham had not previously said what the injury was, only that it was a serious leg injury, and now it has come out torn ACL. And with his timetable, Whittingham expressed confidence that Rising will be ready to go for the start of the season. He said it's a leg injury, going to be fairly extensive rehab. He will not be able to participate in the spring, but we expect him to be ready for the season opener. That Utah-Florida Week 1 game doesn't have a set date yet. The game is listed as either Thursday, August 31st, or Saturday, September 2nd. That will be determined by the Pac-12 TV schedule, as it is a Utah home game. Rising in that season opening loss to Florida this past season, threw for 216 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Now, one other Florida note, their state of Florida's NIL law is going to be repealed and redone. Florida was among the first states to pass a bill allowing for name, image, and likeness. But with new NCAA guidelines, the Florida law has been viewed as putting the state's universities at a competitive disadvantage because of the restrictions. The biggest change with the new bill is that teams and coaches can now be involved in facilitating compensation deals. NCAA rules prohibit programs from directly paying players, but the bill also calls for workshops for players on matters like financial literacy and entrepreneurship, liability protection for coaches and schools regarding players. Reduced participation is only addressed in the new Florida bill. So a good thing for the state of Florida, a good thing for Florida Gators want to get NIL deals done in the near future. Over at Missouri, they're adding a walk-on with a familiar name. Friday night, defensive lineman Tyson Ellison announced his commitment to Mizzou as a preferred walk-on. His dad, Ataya Ellison, currently serves as Mizzou's director of player development. Ataya played for the Tigers in the early 2000s, was a big-time two-time All Big 12 selection. So his son now coming on as a preferred walk-on, and there you have it. That is the latest tidbits going on around the conference. Coming up next, we'll touch on some SEC hoops news, as we had a couple of big-time upsets happening over the weekend. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Of course, this episode is presented by our friends over at Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, you got to go try Built Bar. They got us coming out of the holidays into the new year. You're all looking for something that can be healthy and good for you, but also taste good, and that's what Built Bars are. I don't know how they do it. They are Built bars that taste like candy bars while maintaining amazing macros, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, with a whopping 17 grams of protein packed in there. And now you don't have to wait around to get a box. Of course, you can still go to Built.com to order them, but you can drop by your local Walmart or Sam's Club. Walmart, they've got the box of Built Bars, 4-bar box in the pharmacy section. And at Sam's Club, they got the 13-bar box with some hit flavors like the brownie batter and churro, double chocolate, coconut puffs, cookies and cream, all those flavors out there for you. I encourage you to go check them out at Built.com. Try a Built Bar today. Continue on here, Locked On SEC. And man, we had a lot of basketball action going on over the weekend. Some really, really good SEC games if you got a chance to keep an eye on them. So figured we'd run through a few of them for you. We'll start with what turned out to be one of the games of the weekend. Auburn, Alabama. What a great game that was. Some great highlights in this one. The Auburn faithful really showed up and showed out. The jungle was rocking. Brandon Miller had some nice moments. He put Alan Flanagan on a poster at one point with a transition dunk late in the first half. Miller did not have his first bucket until over 11 minutes into the game and did not make a three-pointer for the first time since the season opener. But Bama got some second-half strong performances from Rylan Griffin, Mark Sears, and Jaden Bradley. And the Crimson Tide pulled away from Auburn in the final minutes to win it 77-69 at Neville Arena on Saturday. Bama, they improved to 22-3 overall. They remain perfect in the SEC at 12-0. Their next game is at Tennessee Wednesday night. That is going to be a monstrous one. Now, speaking of Tennessee, man, second straight game where they lose on a three-pointer at the buzzer. Mizzou leaving Rocky Top with an upset win. It was the Tigers' ball in the final seconds. The Vols were leading 85-83. DeAndre Golston launched a deep three-pointer with just a second left. And it gave Mizzou the 86-85 win over the Vols. Second time in the past week they fell in a buzzer beater. Remember, Vandy's Tyron Lawrence hit an open three to beat the Vols 66-65 in Nashville on Wednesday night. Tennessee had overcome a 17-point deficit in the second half. It was 44-32 Mizzou at the half. The Vols came out and they were in fuego, but they could not close the door. So another disappointing loss for Rick Barnes' crew. And again, Bama coming up. They got to rebound and rebound quickly. Kentucky Wildcats, they are sliding a little bit now after playing some great basketball for a stretch of weeks, as they fell on the road at Georgia 75-68. They kept cutting it, and they just could not put Georgia away. And Bulldogs, scrappy bunch. They get the big win during the post-game press conference after Saturday's loss. Calipari talked about the remaining of their schedule and said, look, things look bleak after back-to-back losses to Arkansas and Georgia, but he said, if we can string together some wins, I think we'll be okay. He said, all I can tell you is, here's what's great. We've got a schedule. Let's us go win games, and we'll be just fine. Kentucky's remaining schedule, not all that impressive, though. Of the 6 remaining games, only Tennessee and Auburn are ahead of the Wildcats in the SEC standings, and the Tigers are dropping to a or dropped into a tie for 4th place. So next up for Kentucky will be a Wednesday night game against Mississippi State. And latest bracketology has Kentucky out. So see if they can string together some wins and find their way into the tournament. Over at Arkansas, they got star freshman Nick Smith Jr. back in action for just the 6th time this season. Missed 14 straight games due to right knee injury. And he scored 5 points, 2 of 7 shooting from the field, as Arkansas still lost at home to Mississippi State 70-64. Along with the 5 points, Smith had 1 rebound, 1 assist. And he tied for a team best +3 in his 17 minutes played. He said after being held on for such a long period of time, there will be an adjustment period for him, getting him back into the usual lineup. Fellow 5-star freshman Anthony Black said he liked what he saw from Smith on Saturday. But a big win for Mississippi State. They improved to 5-7 in the conference. Arkansas, they fall to 6-6 in the conference. Vandy got a big road win over Florida, winning 88-80. So Vandy and Florida both 6-6 overall in the SEC. South Carolina snuck by Ole Miss 64-61. Both of them 2-10 in the conference. And A&M got a nice road win over lowly LSU 74-62. A&M now 10-2 in the SEC, 18-7 overall, and they are certainly trying to punch their ticket into the tournament as the season winds down. And that is the latest from the men's basketball side. Meanwhile, on Sunday afternoon, if you guys were able to watch it, number 1 South Carolina stayed perfect on the season as they played previously undefeated number 3 LSU. Camilla Cardoza had 18 points, 13 rebounds. Zia Cook had 17. And South Carolina beat 3rd-ranked LSU 88-64. Leah Boston, she had 14 points and 9 rebounds as the Gamecocks won their 31st straight game. It was a showcase between the AP Player of the Year in Leah Boston and the big Angel Reese from LSU. But experience came out, and the home crowd showed out for South Carolina. And Dawn Staley's bunch got it done versus Kim Mulkey's crew. 88-64. So congrats to the Lady Gamecocks. And thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Make sure to go check out our other podcast, the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Everything you need to know about college hoops all in one place. You can hear from some big name experts, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. All the latest news going on around the conference, good focus on football, and of course, we'll be looking ahead to that 2024 season when Texas and Oklahoma get here. What will the schedules look like? Plenty of fun road trips on the horizon for a lot of SEC schools. You guys have a great day. Talk to you guys tomorrow.